The Chief Justice of Nigeria has summoned the Chief Judges of the Federal High Court and the Kano State High Court over conflicting orders issued by both courts in the Kano Emirate saga. The National Judicial Council, NJC, is proposing an emergency meeting for next week where the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, and his counterpart in Kano State, Justice DJ Aboki, would be invited and subjected to serious investigations. At the same time, the Nigerian Bar Association has called for disciplinary actions against lawyers and judges involved in the issuance of conflicting court orders in the Kano Emirate legal tussle. Also, prominent groups in 2 of the 4 dissolved Emirate councils have again kicked against abolition of the Emirate, saying their resistance had no political bias as being peddled in some quarters. According to a statement by the Director of Information, National Judicial Council, Mr. Soji Oye, the 2 head of courts were to meet with the CJN today, May 30, 2024. Right, I want to assume that they certainly were listening to yesterday's analysis. Dr. Bati, this was the recommendation you gave about the NBA, the NJC calling the judges and also the lawyers who are involved in these cases to order, and this seems to have been taken into consideration. Your take on this story, Rufai?
Because it makes mockery of the judiciary, what has happened in Kano in the last few days. I think when there were billboards put up, all eyes on the judiciary, that some people felt so disgruntled that they started going to harass the advertising regulatory agency, that why would such a billboard come out? I think they have now seen that the judiciary needs a lot of introspection. That we now live in a country where ex parte orders flies around like bees, and you can get anyone possible by anybody possible. And like Dr. Abati called them, with the aid of ambulance lawyers, I would also like to put in a word there, with the aid of a lot of Bolekaja lawyers that make this easier for them to get. But also about that, what about the sanctity of the courts? Even if lawyers try to seek relief like this, as a judge, are you not put in there as a judge because of your high level of discretion? I'm also happy the CJN has stepped in, but I think also going forward, we must be able to make reviews such a way that the CJN does not even lead the NJC. We need a more robust, independent architecture out there. Because all of these things cannot happen if we don't have a very robust architecture at the NJC to be able to review all of this, and not the CJN leading. But I'm happy he's called them to order. Let's see what will come out of this. Will it make any effect? Have we not had judges that did worse in this country? Have we not had judges that went to public forum that trying to defend their own decision because people called them out that those decisions were questionable? Is that what our judiciary has become in this country? Didn't we see it? And I think what Justice Datijo said at his valedictory service was very instructive. But it's going to 1 year that he said that, have we used some of the advice he gave in there? We will commend them because this is a right step in the right direction. But I also want to ask, what were we looking at all this while till we had a nation where you can get any ex parte possible wherever? How did we deteriorate this bad? It's not just by only mouthing them at MBA conferences and warning lawyers. We need to be able to real action. Will there be any real consequences? Haven't we seen judges with questionable character move up the rankings and move up the ladder despite people's protestation? And that's why even in going forward, in getting Supreme Court judges and things like that, we need to have steeper measures where people are properly grilled. Let's save the judiciary and save our country.
Okay. Let's define the context. Yesterday, Mr. Soji Oye, who is Director of Information to the National Judicial Council, NJC, which is the disciplinary body for judges and other matters, chaired by the Chief Justice of the Federation of Nigeria, issued a statement saying that His Lordship, Justice Ariwola, Chief Justice of Nigeria, Chairman of the Federal Judicial Council of the Federal FJSC and also of the NJC had summoned the chief judges of the Federal High Court and also of the High Court of Kano State. In this regard, Justice Soho and also Justice Abedi Aboki, and the two of them are to meet with him today. And when they meet with him today, the issue will be the controversy over the situation in Kano and the role of the judiciary in the matter. Mr. Soji also told us that next week, a meeting of the National Judicial Council will be convened. And that meeting of the National Judicial Council will be looking at the issues. Now, the key issue here has been the role of the judiciary in Kano State, where we have a situation whereby there have been conflicting ex parte injunctions issued by Federal High Court. First, it was the court of Justice Mohammed Liman. Second, it was the court of Justice Aliyu of the State High Court. Third, it was the court of Justice Amobeda. The State High Court contradicting the Federal High Court contradicting the State High Court, creating a situation whereby, people began to complain about abuse of ex parte injunctions, whether interlocutory or interim or restraining or by whatever label you put it, and how people started talking about jurisdiction. I made the point yesterday, I make it again. Look, the talk about jurisdiction is not as simplistic as we make it look. Nigerian legal system, that's one course they teach 200 level law students about jurisdiction, hierarchy of courts. Each court has its own jurisdiction. But jurisdiction is not as straightforward as it appears, because you have to look at the subject matter. You have to look at the claims. If there are claims that go beyond one court to the other, and that was what I was arguing yesterday, that is a matter that you raise in court and then it can be looked at. So one of the things that the CJN and the NJC will be looking at when the NJC meets next week is that, look, are you people mixing up jurisdiction? Are you mixing up rules? But what we have seen in Kano State is this concern about black market injunctions, black market ex parte orders, and practice directions are made it clear that judges should not give out black market injunctions. Because what we have seen in Kano again, in this chieftaincy matter, is what is called trafficking in judgments. Nigerians are familiar with child trafficking, trafficking in human persons, but we are in a situation whereby, we are also trafficking in judgments. One court will issue one ruling, another court will issue another, all of them operating at the level of ex parte orders. So I think it's an important development that the chairman of the NJC, the CJN, has now summoned the heads of courts and he wants to investigate the matter. I think that the NJC, when it meets next week, should be very firm in making sure that any judge that has promoted, encouraged, inspired trafficking in judgments is duly sanctioned. Only recently, as I said yesterday, the NJC bear its marks when it sanctioned some judges, including some of the most brilliant judges, on the bench. But, the lady of justice is blind. That's why she's blindfolded. That's why she wields the sword. And there's the scale of balance in that image of the lady of justice. I hope that the NJC, when they sit next week, will look, dispassionately at the issues involved. But there's another leg to the matter. The other leg to the matter is the intervention of the NBA. Mikayu CON, has issued a statement, that's the president of the NBA, deploring the situation in Kano State and making it clear that it doesn't make lawyers who are supposed to be officers in the temple of justice look good. It doesn't make judges who are supposed to be above reproach, like Caesar's wife, look good. And that the NJC should be prepared to sanction any judge that has been found wanting in this particular matter. Beyond that, the NBA itself has an obligation under its legal ethics and disciplinary committee to refer any lawyer, any black market lawyer, any ambulance lawyer who has been filing frivolous, vexatious processes and applications and, creating this kind of messy situation that we have in Kano, should be referred to the body of benchers. And the body of benchers should take appropriate action. So I'm saying that, the president of the NBA, Mekiawu SAN, should go beyond just issuing a statement. You should follow up with appropriate action. Because lawyers are part of the problem. They are the ones who will go and say, oh don't worry, oh God, don't worry. I will go and we will file. We know this judge. He will grant us this. No. What they teach in law school, what they teach not just in the legal system, also in jurisprudence, a 500-level course, is that lawyers must be temple officers in the temple of justice. We can't afford to have rogue lawyers. We cannot afford to have judges that grant black market injunctions or that encourage trafficking in judgments. The ball is now in the court of the CJN and chairman of the National Judicial Council. I think His Lordship ought to be reminded that the public is watching. And the public will see efforts that will be made to save the integrity of the judiciary in the crisis that they have in Kano State, where the issues in terms of subject matter are not strictly chieftaincy. There are issues about fundamental human rights. There are issues about the role also of state organs. The police have been mentioned, the DSS have been mentioned, all kinds of parties have been mentioned. And that's why I say, jurisdiction in this particular matter is not a straightforward thing. We're dealing not just with basic law, we're also dealing with jurisprudence.
All right, just very quickly, from the news this morning, and like I mentioned earlier on, this was something that we had discussed, or Dr. Bate actually had mentioned yesterday, with regards to putting, at least let there be some form of accountability for the judges as well as the lawyers. And what we see this morning is a response as if it were to that. One thing I want to remind us is that in a very short while, the CJN will be retiring as CJN once he attains the mandatory age of 70. And at this point, what he would be perhaps reflecting on is what legacy he'll be leaving once he's done with his tenure. And in that fashion, during a 2-day workshop by the Court of Appeal, earlier this month, actually a few days back, he had said that he was hoping to bequeath a robust and prosperous judiciary on retirement. In fact, during his speech, he was keynote speaker at that event. He had said that he had criticized some of the judgments that happened, especially during the election tribunal from the Court of Appeal and different levels of courts. And he had said that erring judges would be sanctioned. And so in line with that, we see now the response to the saga that's happening in Kano State. Yesterday, I maintained that in order for us to have a strong democracy, all three arms of the government must be strong institutions. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary must be protected. It's often said that the court or the court is the last hope of the common man. And in order to ensure that fairness and justice is served, there must be strong institutions. This is what has been called for a number of times. Now, since becoming CJN in 2022, and now looking forward to retirement this year, Justice Ariwola would want to perhaps examine his legacy in terms of what kind of judiciary would he be leaving for the next CJN? How much would he be able to sanitize in terms of ensuring that there is, restoring that trust by the people, confidence in the judiciary process before he leaves tenure. So this is very important, and we're looking forward to what the outcome of the meeting would be, because we have heard of meetings like this. We'll call them to order, and then we have claims made by justices which are not followed up or investigated, and then nothing seems to happen. We must restore confidence in the judiciary, and part of doing that is to ensure that the debacle that's played out in Kano State cannot be allowed to go unresolved, or perhaps without any heads rolling, as it were, and also, very importantly, to prevent incidents like this happening in the future. We saw dissenting judgments by various courts during the election tribunal period. That happened, in terms of investigations and outcomes, not a lot was seen from there, and now we see that again play out with the Kano State issue. And so the question that people ask would be, where next, what next, how else would this again play out? So again, very importantly, we will bring details of the outcome of those meetings, and let's see just how far the NJC is willing to go to establish its stance to bring some sanity, also to bring the much needed order and justice when it comes to the system in Nigeria.